Okay, so get ready because today we are going like deep, deep into nature versus nurture.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, right. Have you ever had like this feeling that certain parents just like have it, you know?
Totally.
It's in their DNA or something?
Yeah.
Like, get this.
Okay.
We are going to be talking about some research that suggests there actually could be this genetic link to how much we like put into our kids,
Really?
like from conception to even after they're adults.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is some really cool research. It looked at more than 36,000 parents,
Wow.
and it used, have you ever heard of those?
I think so.
These things called polygenic scores.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, it's like a little sneak peek into someone's genes.
Okay.
And for this, the researchers looked at the scores that relate to education, like how far someone goes in school.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so we're talking about genes that are linked to like, being studious.
Yeah.
But how does that go from like, I don't know, hitting the books to changing diapers or helping with like algebra homework,
Yeah, so that's where it gets really interesting
Right.
because it's not like a straight line
What's
from
the-
gene to, diaper.
Yeah.
Think of it more like certain genes might be like connected to personality traits or even how well your brain works.
Uh-huh.
And those things then kind of shape how you parent.
I see.
So it's like
Keep
this
that.
web.
It's complicated.
It's complicated, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so how did they even start to like figure this out?
Well, they started at the very beginning
Okay.
with pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they looked at things like whether mothers smoked
Well,
or drank while they were pregnant,
okay.
and also if they breastfed.
And did they find anything there?
They did. They found that mothers with higher polygenic scores, for education,
Mm-hmm.
were more likely to have breastfed their babies.
Mm-hmm.
And in one group they looked at, these same moms were less likely to, drink a lot when they were pregnant.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, what about the moms who, for whatever reason, maybe couldn't breastfeed?
Right.
Maybe there are other things going on. So it's not like a perfect parent situation.
Yeah, and you have to remember that this is just one part of the story.
Right.
Genes aren't everything.
Yeah.
They don't decide everything you do.
Okay.
This is more about, trends,
Yeah.
not, every single person.
Right. Like not telling the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've looked at like the pregnancy stage.
Uh-huh.
What about when babies like actually show up?
Well, then we're into childhood.
Yeah.
And the researchers, they looked at all kinds of things,
Like what?
like reading to their kids, having a structured home,
Okay.
encouraging good habits, and being involved at school.
So like a ton of stuff.
Yeah, a really wide range.
Okay. So anything surprising there?
Well, it turns out that across all of those things, the mothers with higher scores for education,
Yeah.
they tended to do those positive things more.
But wait a minute. Is it possible that like maybe those moms just are more educated?
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. So maybe it's not the genes. Maybe it's that they just know more or have access to more resources.
Yeah, that's a really important point.
Yeah.
And the researchers, they actually thought about that too.
Really?
Yeah, they even looked at the kids' polygenic scores
Oh, wow.
to see if maybe the kids' genes were actually the ones kind of leading the way.
So it's like which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly.
Like, do kids who are kind of naturally bookworms
Mhm.
make their parents read to them more?
Yeah, exactly.
If
And
you
that's
look-
called the child effect.
Okay.
Like the child is kind of affecting the parenting.
Got it.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
They still found that even when they took the kids' genes into account,
Oh, wow.
the mom's scores were still linked to their parenting.
So even if the kid isn't like pushing them to read more,
Right.
it's still there.
Yeah, the mom's genes still seem to matter.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, it gets even more complicated when we get to the teenage years.
Oh, gosh, teenagers.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. We'll save that drama for the next part.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right, so stay tuned.
All right, so teenagers.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is where the research focused on, how much parents keep track of their teenagers.
Okay.
Knowing where they are, who they're with.
Right, like monitoring.
Exactly. And
Okay.
this is interesting because in this case, the kids' genes seem to be more important than the mom's.
So are you saying that my teenagers, sneaking out at night,
Yeah.
that could be their genes, not mine?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
It's more like as kids become teenagers,
Yeah.
their own genes might start to shape how their parents react to them.
That makes sense. Teenagers are all about pushing those boundaries.
Right.
So maybe if they have genes that make them more likely to take risks,
Uh-huh.
then their parents have to clamp down more.
Exactly.
So it's back and forth.
It's a dance.
It's a dance. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about moms.
Yeah.
What about dads?
Right. So they looked at dads too,
Okay.
but it's tricky.
How so?
Well, not all dads live with their kids, and the dads who are in research studies, they might not be like all dads.
Right, it's like a certain type of dad who's willing to be in a study.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so it's not like a perfect picture.
Right, but even with that in mind,
Yeah.
they still found a link
Between.
between dads' genes for education and their parenting.
Hmm. So similar to moms in a way.
Yeah, like higher scores were linked to things like spending more time teaching their kids and being more affectionate.
Interesting, but did they look at like what happens when you have, say, a mom with a high score and a dad with a low score?
Ah, that's a great question.
Or the other way around,
Yeah, that would be fascinating to know.
right?
Unfortunately, this study didn't look at that.
Wow.
But it's a good area for future research.
Definitely. So we've talked about all these different stages,
Mhm.
pregnancy, childhood. But what about the big picture?
Right, like does it all add up?
Yeah, exactly.
So they created this measure, they called it cumulative parental investment,
Okay.
which takes into account all those different stages.
So it's like all the time, the energy,
Efforts, the
research.
resources. It's like a parenting bank account.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And get this, they found that the kids who got a lot of investment throughout their lives,
Yeah,
their mothers had different genes
really.
than the moms of kids who didn't get as much investment.
Wait, so you're telling me there's a genetic difference
It seems that
on the
way.
mothers who are like more invested?
It suggests that even though genes might not have a huge impact at any one time, over time it builds up.
So all those little things add up?
Yeah, like compound interest.
Wow. Okay, this is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So even if our genes aren't our destiny,
Right.
they can still have like a long-term effect.
It seems that way.
That's pretty powerful.
It is, but it's important to remember what this research does and doesn't tell us.
Okay.
We're not saying that certain genes make you a better parent.
Right, right.
It's just one factor among many.
So it's complicated.
It's complicated, yeah.
But if we know this, does it change how we think about helping parents? I mean, if we can see these patterns, can we like do anything about it? Help those kids who maybe aren't getting that investment because of, all these factors, even their parents' genes.
That's such an interesting question.
Yeah.
Like, what if we flip our thinking a little?
Okay.
What if instead of focusing on the advantages some kids have, we focus on how to even things out for the ones who might be, starting from behind?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
Imagine we could identify families who might need that extra help, and we could get to them early.
Right, like before things even get off track.
Exactly. And we could tailor the help
Yeah.
specifically to them.
So not just giving everyone the same advice,
Right.
but really figuring out what each family needs.
Yeah, and it wouldn't just be about giving them information.
Right.
It would be about giving them the resources, the support, really empowering those parents.
It's like giving them a boost in their parenting bank account
Exactly.
so they can make those important investments in their kids.
That's a great way to put it.
It's almost like leveling the playing field,
Yeah.
but not by like changing anyone's genes,
Right.
but by changing the world around those genes.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that genes aren't everything.
Right, they're not destiny.
We can influence how those genes actually play out.
It's hopeful in a way, right?
It is.
Like even though genes matter, we can still make a difference.
Absolutely.
What makes you think, what are some ways we can support parents better?
Yeah, like access to good childcare, early education programs, even affordable health care.
Those are all things that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, for any child, regardless of their parents' genes.
It's like we're moving away from this idea that parenting is one size fits all and recognizing that every family is different.
Absolutely.
But this whole thing does make you wonder about the ethical side of things.
Oh, definitely.
Like, how do we make sure we're not using this information to judge parents?
Yeah, that's a really important point.
Right. Because we don't want to make anyone feel bad.
No, this research isn't about labeling people. It's about understanding.
Yeah.
It's about giving parents more tools to help their kids.
So it's not about saying you're a bad parent because of your genes.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's about saying, let's figure out what you need to be the best parent you can be.
Exactly.
That's a much better message.
It is, and it reminds us that parenting is this really complex mix of nature and nurture.
It's a dance, right?
It's dance, yeah, and we're still learning the steps.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
We've explored how genes might influence parenting,
Yeah.
but also how important it is to remember that genes are just one piece of the puzzle.
It's a fascinating puzzle.
It really is, and who knows what else we'll discover as we keep learning.
Exactly. There's still so much to explore.
Well, on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep those minds curious.